Okay, so what you really want to look for is what is the need, what is the problem, and then for your actual capstones, these are the two main things that you're going to have to find out. And then from there, what is the research questions? Without those three aspects, you don't have a project, because you cannot write a protocol, you cannot do it, write a project about it, you cannot really proceed. Okay. The other thing that's important afterwards is what needs to be done. What is the approach? And of course, as you know from the classes that you've had so far, there's multiple approaches that can be taken. And what is the deliverable, and what is the impact? So what is the impact of the project? As you know, in translations, we are looking for moving knowledge into impact. So that's what we want to see, right? So what is the deliverable? Okay, so what are the requirements for some of these things? So it's critical thinking. You don't take anything for granted. You always ask questions, and why. And it's not because you do not, you don't have to feel that you maybe, I don't want to say, not as smart, but because this inquiry is really important for you to understand the need and the problem. Professionalism, so how do you interact with people? Not only with your peers, with your classmates, with your instructors, but also with outside people. So remember, for your capstone project, as you're going to hear from groups, you have an advisory committee that it's completely outside TRP. And not only do you have to know how to engage them and how to approach them, but also how to interact with them throughout your project. And of course, for the second years, well, that's still ongoing, or that's still in the works. So you're going to see how that's going to go. But remember, they're there to help you, but to also provide criticism, right? So you want that criticism because you want the projects to be the best. Now, sometimes it's hard to take, so you're going to have to figure it out how to actually take feedback and how not to get offended. Most people, when they ask questions, it's not because they want to trip you, but it's because they really want to understand what you're doing. So from that, you always kind of have to think, maybe I haven't actually presented it as clearly as I thought I'm presenting it. And a lot of times when you work on a project, is you know so much about the thing that you're working on that you lose track that other people don't know as much. Okay. If that goes, of course, to effective communications, interprofessional collaborations, adaptability, which basically means that sometimes what you think your product is going to be, that's not what it's going to end up being. Because as the more you investigate, the more you find out what is the need, what is the problem, and where you should go. And of course, time management is one of the most important factors. In the second years, because really your main responsibility is your capstone project, and unless you have other modules and electives that you need to do, you don't necessarily have a lot of schoolwork, but you want to make sure. But the capstone project takes a lot of work, but it might seem like at times, well, I don't have to do it this week, I can do it next week, I can do it a week after, and then you really in trouble. And everybody knows what it means. So I know Michaela is laughing, but that's typical. Okay, so for the need and problem, identify, understand, frame, investigate, generate, implement, disseminate. So be clear as to what you are doing or what you're trying to do and why. And the reason I'm saying this is, again, you're going to be in the same boat as the second years. So I want you to ask them difficult questions. Okay, don't be mean, but you can be critical, because they also want to get that feedback, and you want to make sure that you understand what they're doing. Okay, and we seem to have a kind of a division, first and second year, half partially. Okay, and so after these presentations, we're gonna have a social. So we're all gonna walk, hopefully somewhat before 7, to Duke of Cornwall on University and have something to eat. Okay. So I have what? No. So on the chat, I posted the presentations order. So the first group is revamp, right? Okay, let me just put it up. Too many things open. I had it just, Jen?
Blue on Zoom.
Huh?
The camera of the room was like there was no image.
Is it still coming up like this?
So we could see the presentation, but not us.
Huh. Let me see. What? This one? No, this is. I had them actually arranged in a proper order that I had them saying, and somehow they. I'm gonna remove that. No, you had this here. Cycling. Dementors. Sorry. That's not yours, right? Yeah. Yeah, the first one. So I did have it. Okay, so for presentations, each group has 7 minutes. I will be timing it. You cannot go over 7 minutes because we don't have time, so I will be timing it. Then there'll be 2 questions afterwards that anybody can ask, and then we're gonna go from there, okay?
Okay. Oh, sorry. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Let me know when you're starting. No, there's no that. Does this work? Okay.
Is there one right?
Okay. So welcome everyone. I'm Mikhail, representing Project POTS. That's our working title from Team Revamp. So before we get started, I just wanted to know how many of you have heard of POTS. Just a quick show of hands. Yeah. Okay. Well, for those who haven't heard of it, which a lot of you have, I'm just going to do a quick refresher on what POTS is. So POTS is... Okay, wait. Sorry, I think someone messed up the slides. No? Okay, one second. That's not the right kind of POTS. God damn it, okay. Okay, POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and it's most characterized by increased heart rate upon standing.
Oh, I'm out.
Okay, fancy, you show up.
Wow, this is a lot of people. I think I feel a little dizzy, nauseous. My heart's going really fast, palpitations, blurred vision. I can't read very well. I think I'm gonna fall.
I think you're just really anxious right now.
Social anxiety?
Stage fright.
I don't think so. Actually, this is exactly how a POTS patient feels every single time that they stand up from a sitting position. However, it's actually very unfortunate that it is very commonly misdiagnosed as anxiety or just dismissed altogether. Why do we care? Well, did you know that 1% of the population in North America suffers from POTS? And that this incidence is likely doubled since COVID-19 because a large proportion of long COVID patients are beginning to present with POTS.
Yes, it's not sharing.
I hope our timer's paused.
Yes, don't worry about it.
Oh, geez. Did the meeting end? Not my fault.
We want to do a retake.
No, I don't want to restart.
Okay, but I don't know why.
No, he has to.
I don't have my laptop.
Oh, never mind.
No, I am on Zoom.
Sorry, I assumed it was your laptop.
Well, I was sharing before, so I didn't get it.
Back to Zoom.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
So our screen is blue.
Oh, is it there? Because before it was showing, like,
Is it
when you were working. No, when you were working.
The camera isn't looking at us anymore.
It could happen to any one of you. That's all I'm saying.
Well, now they can see you.
Yeah, now it's okay.
Yeah, but they can see us. They don't look to this camera. They look to my camera.
I think when you share screen, you can't have it.
Yeah, we have that one.
Oh.
Same system.
Yeah, it's okay.
I just needed a little.
Yeah, you have your presentation.
I'm waving to the camera.
Can you guys see the presentation online?
Now we can.
Well, yes. Dominique, can you hear us online?
Yeah, I can hear. Sometimes it's kind of cutting off here and there, but we can hear you.
He's
good.
cutting off.
Yeah.
No, we can hear
Speak
her.
into this. That might help.
Can you guys hear us online?
Yes,
Yeah, we can hear
Dominique,
you.
can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, only if you speak
Yeah,
into the
but we
mic.
can't
Okay,
hear
so you
them.
hear us if we speak into the mic?
Is there,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's audio.
Christina, can you speak?
Yes, I've been speaking. I don't think you guys heard me.
Do I still have your attention? People online.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes,
you.
we can.
Yeah, we still can't. Oh my God. Dominique, can you speak?
Hello.
See, I can't.
I can hear you super good, and I can hear Christina. Hi, Joseph. I can.
Technical difficulties. My fault.
But we cannot hear them. I see them speaking, and we cannot hear them. They can hear us. That's the problem. Yes,
But they can hear us, right?
they can hear us. We
And then they
can't
can
hear
chat.
them.
Okay, so somebody join the team and like, let me do it.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay.
Camera is on.
Yeah, but we can hear them somehow. Okay.
Okay, we're good? Yeah? It's no No, just keep going. There's no screen. How do we get up there?
Hello, Joseph.
Okay, you know what?
Hello, Joseph.
Okay.
You shouldn't be able to hear me. No, I don't hear Joseph.
No, we don't hear Joseph.
No, but I don't know, Joseph. Are you able to hear us?
Oh my God.
I don't think they hear us.
No. It's gonna be a you and me, Christina.
Yep.
Can you put it on the website, please?
Oh, I see why we don't have the
Yeah,
order. She posted them at like 3:40.
Posted in what?
So the order of the presentations, I can see in Edita's computer that she posted them at 3:40 p.m. and I logged on at 4. So
Oh, that's why. Same.
I don't see them.
Yeah, same. I actually took it. I put them on my post-it.
Okay, now you guys can.
Okay, we're good. Hello, listen up. We're going to continue from where we left off, so we hope you remember.
There's a bit of an echo. I don't know if you're able to hear.
There's an echo.
Oh, not anymore.
Okay.
The echo's out.
Okay. So just to remind you guys, we talked about the symptoms of POTS, and now we're talking about why we should care about it. Oh my God, this is completely dumb. Okay, so 1% of the population in North America suffers from POTS, and this has likely doubled according to research since the pandemic, because a large proportion of long COVID patients actually present with POTS. In terms of functional impairment, these patients actually have functional impairment similar to congestive heart failure or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is COPD. In terms of quality of life, their quality of life is comparable to dialysis patients with kidney failure. This has also been proven in research. A quarter of all patients with POTS are not able to work because of disability. Then there's physicians. These patients present diagnostic challenges for physicians, which causes frustration. For the healthcare system, patients are, because they're sent back and forth, mismanagement and misdiagnoses actually wastes a lot of dollars, versus if we just cared for them in the right way. Which brings us to our need. Based on our information gathering sessions, we have determined that the need is for physicians to be equipped to diagnose and manage POTS. This equipment can be in terms of actual equipment or in just knowledge.
Okay, second years, you should know this by now, but I'm just going to do a quick show of hands for how long do you guys think it takes to get diagnosed with POTS and get treated as well? So how many of you think it's 2 years? 2 years, anyone? We got one person, okay. Not 2 years. 3 years, that sounds all right. 3 years, any, no? We have one in the back, okay. Okay, 5 years. You think 5 years? Okay, it seems like it should be the case. It's not. It's actually 6 to 12 years. And second years, you should know this. We talk about this every rapid update. So it's 5 to 12 years. 6 to 12 years is not a problem. And for the first years, I'm going to be very explicit in what problem we've identified is. So I'll just read from here. Physicians are not referring POTS, physicians are referring POTS patients instead of treating them and initiating care themselves. So we came to that through our informal information gathering. We talked to a bunch of physicians and patients over the past, I'd say, 4 months now. And the main thing we stumbled on is that there is a knowledge gap. Physicians either don't know about POTS or think it's out of their scope for treatment. Like a primary care physician, they'll have a patient presenting with heart issues, fainting, increased heart rate, and boom, they get sent to the cardiologist. I mean, rightfully so. They are the heart experts, but even cardiologists are not treating POTS. They're also referring them to 2 specialists in Ontario whose wait lists are over 200 patients long, and they could be doing the treatment themselves. So there's also another issue we identified. The test for POTS is called the active stand test. It takes about 15 minutes, which is longer than most care appointments at clinics, and physicians just don't have the time for that. So this results in patient frustration and increased suffering. Another thing I'm going to be very explicit about is our research question, because the data said we should be. What are the barriers and facilitators that we can address to promote physicians in initiating care for POTS patients in Ontario? So this gives us 2 main objectives. First, we want to identify the barriers. We're going to do that through surveying physicians all over Ontario and seeing differences and stuff. And then we're going to take the responses from the surveys and go to a co-design session. We're going to work with physicians, perhaps sharing information from physicians who actually treat POTS and deal with it with physicians who don't, or coming up with something completely new.
So this is our timeline. We had our project proposal approved in July, and that was followed by information gathering sessions with various stakeholders, like Mikhail mentioned, patients, physicians, spots experts, allied healthcare physicians. Then we fine-tuned our research design, research methods, and our recent milestone that we've hit is PAC formation, which is the Project Advisory Committee. Our meeting is scheduled for next week, and the week after, we will submit our RAB proposal. Followed by then there's the research activities. We're going to be surveying physicians and analyze that data from the surveys. Then move on to designing an intervention that addresses one or several of the barriers that are that we find. Followed by knowledge dissemination, which is where our deliverables come in. We want to write up a report as well as publish our findings. And then last but not the least, our defense, hopefully at the end of the academic year. Now, why should you care about this? So, have you ever had a health concern that has been dismissed by your doctor? Misdiagnosed, avoided, even gaslit? Yesterday, that was patients who had, for example, mental health disorders, HIV, ADHD, autism. Today, it's POTS. So we're really hoping that you guys would join us in increasing the information and knowledge out there for POTS. So if you're interested in learning more, please reach out to one of us, Asnia, Mikhail, Lynette, Vedant. And then we would also like your help. We want you to connect us with your physicians or any physicians that you know that are practicing in Ontario so that we can maximize the reach of our surveys. And then those surveys hopefully will reach to a better study, more data, better impact. So let's hopefully all make a difference together. Thank you. Comments, questions, concerns?
So there are materials. Actually, one of our PAC members published in Canada, and that goes over the whole process of diagnosing, treating, and caring for POTS patients at all at all levels of medicine. So there are materials out there. We just don't know, like we literally don't know if they're being accessed or not. So that's what we want to figure out. That's one of the things.
I'd say that like every one of those is that access to some mistakes. Competition, other international competitions in our cohorts, in the new cohorts, and either we just know a little bit about POTS, and a little bit just means, oh, yeah, I know what that is, I don't know what to do with it. So even if they know what it is, but they don't know what to do with it, the patient gets shunned.
Hi, I was wondering how you were thinking of involving other allied health professions like physical therapists or occupational therapists to also have a way in POTS management and symptom management.
So something that we specifically want to focus on in our study is physicians, because from all of our information gathering, we've seen that patients who think or who do have POTS are very well aware. Allied professionals how they can manage. But the problem is we're still not getting a label. We need the diagnosis because right now there's an estimate for North America for 1% of the population, but the actual incidence or prevalence in Canada is unknown because there's just so much underdiagnosis. So one of the things that we really wanted to do is to push the healthcare system to start seeing the condition.
Yeah. Any other questions? I saw Sarah, your hand was going up, or no? Wait, there's a, for the people online. I'll talk into this mic as well.
What is the current treatment options for POTS?
Current treatment options for POTS. So there's several things. A lot of it is symptom management. So a lot has to do with like compression socks and taking, what do you call those, electrolytes. There are some pills and other treatments, but the main treatment is physiotherapy. There is a specific protocol, it slips my mind. We actually talked to a physiotherapist who works through the protocol. Do you remember what it's called? I forgot what the protocol is called, but there is a physiotherapy protocol that's the main treatment, and that has good results in some people, not all.
The treatment is, there's two things. First of all, what causes the POTS is determines what the treatment will be. Second of all, treatment is not curative. It's primarily management. It's like similar to diabetes. You can't ever get it out, but you can manage it so that it doesn't complicate your life. So basically that's about it.
Thank you.
Oh, more questions.
Do you have time?
Do you have time? Yeah. Oh, wait, no, we have more questions.
Hi, my question was, how are you reaching out to physicians and really focusing just in Toronto, GTA, or all around?
So our focus is Ontario because we want to stick to one jurisdiction, and the type of physicians I'm guessing you're asking. So not.
No, how are we reaching out to physicians?
So our recruitment strategy, first of all, of course, word of mouth. We're going to be emailing them, cold emailing them. Do you remember what else?
Oh, we're gonna contact like heads of departments,
Yes.
stuff like that.
And so one of our PAC members is actually the head of cardiovascular research at the Women's College Hospital, and she is one of the two POTS experts for Ontario as well. So we're also going to be getting them to send the surveys either out to their patients or to directly the physicians that are referring to them. And there's a website, I think a forum for patients with dysautonomia is the umbrella term for patients with POTS and other related disorders. Dysautonomia International has a lot of physicians, patients on it, so we're going to be using that to reach out to them as well. It's not all physicians though, it's family physicians, emergency physicians, cardiologists and internists, because those are the ones that we've seen primarily end up dealing with POTS patients.
He had his hand up first, sorry. Yeah, you can share.
What does your desired state look like from this capstone? What do you hope to see the change versus the current state?
So that's a very good question. Like specifically, we're not sure because we first need to know exactly what barriers physicians are facing, and then we can do something about them. And so then it also depends on if you see one single big barrier, then we start working on that. Or if there's multiple little barriers, we work on that. So like we said,
that would be the desired state for the physicians themselves, but for the patients, we do want to accelerate either that diagnosis timeline or just get treatment faster, even if it is without a diagnosis. Last question?
Yeah, what have you found so far in your research to be the barriers to diagnosis? And why would for a condition like this, why would a Holter monitor not be immediately diagnostic?
I'm so glad you brought that up because we were talking about Holter monitors for a really long time.
The Holter monitor can't really tell when you're sitting and standing, as far as we know. And then patients have to, and it's not commonly used for trying to figure out POTS. The gap is first trying to figure out if it even exists as a condition and patients knowing that it's a condition, because like Mikhail said, it is very commonly misdiagnosed as anxiety.
Current recorders have an event marker, so the patient is able to identify each time they be standing up that was the intended purpose of the Holter monitor.
Like I know we've looked into Holter monitors.
Maybe Lynette online can comment on it,
Yeah.
because
But we haven't
initially when we were looking into ideas, we wanted to do a remote diagnostic tool, and we were looking into how we could use perhaps Holter monitors or existing technology that could take both blood pressure and heart rate and maybe like take it as an average over time, so you wouldn't have to do that one single test multiple times. You could just have like something like an Apple Watch on, Holter monitor on, and then receive your diagnosis that way. But that's very different from the current norms and the way it is diagnosis. I think Holter monitors are used for symptom management for POTS at the moment, something like that. I think, Lynette, if you're online and you want to elaborate.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me. Holter monitors are used basically just to gain patterns in what the tachycardia is. Yes, I agree. It's not rocket science that they could be combined with instructions to sit and stand to perform the active stand test, but that is not done.
So for those online, she said, Holter monitors are used for, wait, what was the last part?
Just to detect, monitor heart rhythm over a period of time. So yes, it can detect tachycardia, and it could theoretically be used to perform the active stand test if it was accompanied with instructions as to how to sit, stand for how long and what have you, but that isn't done.
Okay, we'll get to you.
Okay, so next, go.
More efficiently. Oh, you're wondering, it's not a pot, it's pots.
One second. Okay, can I start? Hi everyone, my name is Parnian and I'm part of PsychLink, and I'm going to go over our presentation today, optimizing patient experiences in ketamine-assisted psychotherapy. So this is our team. We are a two-person group, but unfortunately Maddie couldn't be here today, so it's just going to be me. And we are supported by our advisors, Adita and Gilbert. So this is an overview of our presentation, and I'm just going to dive into it just for the sake of time. So ketamine-assisted psychotherapy and ketamine in general. So ketamine is primarily used as an anesthetic, but it has hallucinogenic properties. And in the recent years, it has been shown to be pretty effective for the treatment of mental health conditions like PTSD and treatment-resistant depression. There are different ways that providers can use ketamine in terms of treatment, but for mental health conditions. But one way is to combine it with psychotherapy. So as you can see on the slide, it's kind of like an administration session of ketamine is kind of sandwiched between a preparation and an integration session, during which psychotherapy is provided to the patient. So CAP, or ketamine-assisted psychotherapy, offers a new hope for a lot of patients that have been shown to be resistant to 2 or 3 different medications. So it is important in terms of kind of bringing an innovative model for treating depression, but it's also important to make sure that there's an emphasis on patient-centered care when CAP is provided to patients. So it's important to understand patient experiences and their perspectives, or in other terms, patient-reported outcomes. So one way that you can comprehensively understand patients' experiences is to conduct a journey mapping study. So journey maps are essentially visual approaches that evaluate the patient's experience as they navigate the healthcare system. So this is just an example of a patient journey map from another study, but it's important in the sense that it can allow you to see not only just what the patient feels, how they perceive the care they get, their interactions with different healthcare providers, but also what are the different pain points or barriers they experience, what are the facilitators, or essentially what works, what doesn't work, and what are improvement opportunities that we can kind of like provide actionable strategies to kind of improve patient satisfaction and patient-reported outcomes. So as Maddie and I were kind of doing our literature search and engaging with different professionals in this field, we kind of noticed that there's a key challenge in terms of lack of comprehensive data on patient experience. So we didn't find any particular study within Canada, specifically Ontario or Canada in general, that looked at patient perspectives as they navigate through CAP. But one particular rapid review study we found just engaged with a single patient contributor who had done CAP before and was kind of going through their experiences in terms of what worked for them and what didn't. So, and this particular person mentioned things like issues with access, issues with stigma amongst healthcare professionals, or lack of knowledge amongst healthcare professionals, and emphasized things like financial constraints. So those are important to know, but we also need to understand if they're generalizable to the broader patient population. So lack of comprehensive data on patient experience seems to be something here that we are lacking. And on top of that, if we do end up seeing in our data that there is barriers that patients experience, how can we address those barriers and how can we improve so patient satisfaction is higher? So that's kind of the foundation of our study. We want to do this by doing patient journey mapping and engaging with different professionals within the ketamine field. So these are our research questions. So what experiences, barriers, facilitators do individuals with treatment-resistant depression encounter during the pre-treatment and the actual treatment phases of CAP, and how can journey mapping inform opportunities for improvement, and what strategies can be developed from the combination of a journey mapping and a multidisciplinary workshop with healthcare professionals in ketamine therapy. So just in simplified term, we're going to explore patient experiences across and prior to CAP. We're going to identify key barriers, facilitators, and improvement opportunities, then map out and generate a visual patient journey map that's going to highlight emotions, healthcare provider interactions, feelings, everything that the patient goes through the healthcare system, and along with gaps and proposals on how to address said gaps. Then we're going to develop actionable strategies through expert collaboration and with the ultimate goal of improving patient care within the ketamine therapy field. So basically our study is 2 phases. First, we're going to do a qualitative study, which is semi-structured interviews with 15 to 20 patients with treatment-resistant depression that either have undergone CAP or are currently undergoing CAP. And we're going to gather the data, do thematic analysis with in vivo, and eventually generate the patient journey maps. And from there, we're going to go to phase 2, which we are going to recruit about 4 to 7 ketamine providers or experts within the ketamine or psychedelic field. And we are going to host a 2 to 3 hour long workshop to come up with actionable patient-centered strategies that address any gaps we encountered throughout the way. So this is just the project progress. Is very similar to the last group. Just conceptualize the project, do literature search, engage with different stakeholders. We have 2 members for our PAC, and we have already submitted our REB. We're just waiting. And right now we're just doing some prep work for our participant recruitment. We're just engaging with different ketamine clinics within Ontario to see if they're willing to collaborate with us on our project. And our next steps is to recruit our final PAC member and host the first PAC meeting. Might be a little bit late on that one, but aside from that, we're just going to wait for REB and eventually revise and launch the recruitment. And we also wanted to acknowledge our PAC advisors and academic advisors and anybody else who supported us throughout this, and will support us eventually. And that's it. Thank you. Questions? Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Okay, I'll be loud. Who do you plan on sharing the journey map with? Okay. Because you said you want to create actionable, so who are you going to work with?
Well, the journey map, I think we can share it through like an actual report that will be submitted to the journal. But if you mean for the phase 2 of the study, we're going to work with either psychotherapists or psychiatrists or people that actually have expertise in ketamine therapy and have worked with patients, because obviously they would have more knowledge than us in terms of how to engage with patients and how to improve their care. Oh, let's go ahead.
Just like from my knowledge of ketamine treatment, it's often for the treatment-resistant depression. And treatment-resistant depression often is derived from like heavy trauma and tends to like persist in patients who have gone through like repeated traumas and are different, like really struggling with their mental health. Because of that, have you integrated any kind of like sensitivity or just putting, I guess, what's the word? Boundaries within your questioning for your like patient journey mapping to ensure like full comfortability, and then with that, with boundaries also comes restrictions. So like, how are you kind of navigating through that? Because that seems really complicated.
Yeah, that was a really good question because we are kind of struggling with that even in our ethics application. So the thing about semi-structured interviews is that the questions tend to be very broad, and then you have prompt questions that kind of go into detail if the participant doesn't end up mentioning specific details that you're looking for. So we do definitely want to make sure that we use trauma-informed practices. So there's actually like courses on LinkedIn and the Coursera and things like that that I was looking into recently to kind of just do it for preparation for the qualitative study part. But so far, we've just made sure that the language within our interview guide just is very, I don't know, sensitive, I guess. To thank you, thank you.
Just one moment, please. Oh, that's good. Does this need to be? Here, this way. Okay. Are you hitting that one? The timer? We have to move it? Yeah. Or should I? Or I'll type it. Why is someone talking here? Oh, yeah. No, I think it's this. Yeah, it's. I'm just gonna put this here so we can see. But it's. Oh, okay, sure. Can we start? I don't know. We're waiting for Adita. Are we good? Oh. Okay, you're gonna. You control this. Yeah, you control your part, and then it goes through mine. Okay, ready? Ready? Go.
Hi everyone, Flash, Hafsa, Delza, and I will be presenting our Capstone update on our project on Data Day, a self-management tool for individuals with early onset dementia and mild cognitive impairment. So as an overview, we will begin with an introduction and background, a review of what Data Day is, and our need, problem, and research question. We will then discuss our stakeholders, research protocol, current progress, and next steps. So our team consists of us four, our advisors, Joseph and Gilbert, and the DATE lab team consisting of Dr. Arlene Estelle and Erica Dove, who are the founders of the app and our collaborators. So as a background, dementia refers to a variety of conditions, including Alzheimer's disease, and is characterized by progressive memory loss and functional impairment. Moreover, mild cognitive impairment, or MCI, refers to cognitive decline beyond that of normal aging, but not severe enough to interfere significantly with daily life or meet the criteria for dementia.
So why is this a problem? Research shows us that patients with dementia are twice as likely to visit the ER for preventable conditions. Additionally, many patients tend to manage their condition at home with limited healthcare access, leading to crisis-driven care. The burden of dementia on society is growing, with over 55 million affected globally. This number is predicted to reach 139 million by the year 2050. In Canada, the stats tell us that approximately 500,000 Canadians live with dementia, and it's predicted that this number will nearly double in 15 years. The annual economic impact of this exceeds $10.4 billion. Therefore, the rising prevalence due to an aging population highlights the urgency for innovative solutions. So this brings us to the Data Day app, led by Dr. Arlene Estelle and the Toronto Rehabilitation Institute. This app was designed in collaboration with patients and their caregivers. The purpose of this app is to enhance and encourage self-management for individuals with dementia or MCI. Some of the key features integrated within the app include a Nana toolkit, which tracks nutrition and aging-related data, a Remind scheduler to provide reminders and encourage daily task management, and a portal access which allows caregivers and clinicians to monitor progress remotely. The analysis of the app's performance found that it was successful in the feasibility in outpatient memory clinics, and it engaged its users through co-creating sessions, workshops, and feedback meetings, aiming for a patient-centered approach.
So you might be wondering, why does this matter and how will an app help patients with cognitive impairments? As Delza mentioned, we know that the number of people with dementia is growing and many people struggle to manage their condition at home without consistent access to health services. Data Day aims to address this problem by allowing patients and their caregivers to self-manage their symptoms. The overall goal is to slow decline and dependency to improve quality of life and autonomy in patients with dementia and their caregivers, while subsequently reducing the demands on healthcare services. So a lot of the information we found was in the literature, and we needed to verify that these were actually problems that patients actually faced. So we began to engage with stakeholders. We spoke with individuals from different areas of expertise to understand what problems they face and verify what was said in the literature. Some of the key people include Dr. Christina Cocorelius, who works at Mount Sinai's geriatric program and focuses on the experiences and needs of family caregivers and older adults with complex care needs. We also spoke to TRP alums Katie and Ty, who have lived experiences as caregivers for people with dementia, and both did their capstone projects on dementia as well. In the community, we've had conversations with residents at Christie Gardens retirement community who have dementia, as well as individuals with dementia and their caregivers in our immediate networks. So through these conversations, we found that patients want a tool that is easy to use and can be used to manage their symptoms from home. Caregivers also wanted a self-management tool, but they were also concerned with burnout and mentioned needing to find a manageable way to support their loved ones and those who they are providing care to. Healthcare providers mentioned that while there are some self-management resources, there is a gap where end users are not consulted, so most of these tools are not useful. In summary, we identified a need to implement an evidence-based tool that supports self-management of symptoms. Our problem is that individuals with mild to moderate dementia and MCI lack a tool for self-management, and our research question is Data Day an effective self-management tool in improving the quality of life of patients with early onset dementia and MCI and their caregivers? Once we had this identified, we were able to move on to design our protocol.
So our study will be a mixed method study, which will be investigating the impact of Data Day on people living with mild to moderate dementia or MCI before and after using the app. 50 individuals will be recruited to participate in the study, where they will be introduced to and taught how to use the Data Day app at home for a 12-week period. In addition to patients, the caregivers of the recruited patients will also be recruited to take part in the study and proxy assessed using the quality of life Alzheimer's disease scale, while patients will be self-assessed. The outcomes of the use of the Data Day app will be assessed through pre- and post-study comparisons of these scores, which is a 3-item scale, the quality of life Alzheimer's disease scale, that rates domains such as physical health, mood, activities, relationships, and the ability to complete tasks. Additionally, our participants will take part in an audio recorded interviews during and after the study for further qualitative and thematic analysis. So far, the completed milestones that we have completed are REB submission. We are currently awaiting approval for this, and we have had some meaningful stakeholder engagement, as Hafsa mentioned, which has led us to our PAC members, which we are currently finalizing, and and we have been accepted into the ACTS conference in April 2025, which will be in DC. Currently, we are working on a literature review where we hope to complete a scoping review, and we are attending bi-weekly meetings with our advisors and collaborators. In addition to what we're currently doing, such as literature review and biweekly meetings, we are hoping to finalize our pack formation and implement a strategy for our recruitment process with our collaborators. And we have a meeting scheduled for that this week. And that concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Question?
Yes.
Mike, I think you guys speak up. Hello. I was going to ask, is it a self-management tool that's more so catered towards the patients with dementia and Alzheimer's? Is that what we're going to talk?
Yes.
So I had a question about that, because I was a caregiver for my grandfather with dementia for a whole year. So he's someone that wasn't really able to use any applications. And there's been multiple people in my family that had dementia who weren't able to use any technology for that instance. So how do you accommodate someone that doesn't have the essential, I guess, technological aspects to self-manage themselves?
So yeah, that's a great point, and we have considered that. So we aren't the ones who developed the app, so our role is to assess the usability. So we are taking that concern, and we have spoken to the team who's made the app, and we do know that not everybody is very technologically inclined. So that's why the focus of our study is on people with earlier stages who might be able to learn or have a little bit of familiarity with technology, but also their caregivers. So even if they're not the ones who are directly tracking their symptoms in the app, their caregivers can help support that. And it's just a way for them to manage their symptoms at home and still have a connection to their care providers without needing to go to the hospital in emergencies.
I just want to add too that anyone using the app does go through training as well. The staff that's working with them teaches them how to use it.
Hi, a follow-up on that question. I know that habit formation is a really big barrier for a lot of people who have any kind of cognitive. I know habit formation is a big barrier for people who have a cognitive impairment that impacts working or long-term memory, especially things like dementia. So, are you guys going to be tracking anything like habit formation and how that affects overall use, or in what cases habit formation is or isn't successful?
Yeah, actually, so that is one of our outcome measures in our study design, is we are going to be looking at kind of the patient's experiences on one hand, so more qualitatively, but on the quantitative side, we will be looking at back-end data to see and make sure that patients are actually using the app and it is a habitual thing versus, they use it for the first couple days and then for the rest of the duration of the study, the app doesn't get opened. So we are going to be looking into that too, because with that information, we'll be able to assess if this tool actually works. And we are very aware that there's a possibility that this tool might not work. So we might have to go back to the team to just let them know that, hey, you overlooked X, Y, Z.
To add, in addition to the questionnaires about their symptoms, we're also asking in interviews what challenges they have using the app and things like that to report back. So in addition to the back-end data.
I just have a quick comment and I'll ask a question. Have you guys heard of Verkai Center?
Pardon?
Verkai Center. So it's on, I forgot what street, but it's near Church Street, and the University of Toronto is actually affiliated with it. There's the undergrad professor, Franco Taverna, and he teaches a class on dementia, and I feel like you guys could probably connect with him. And he places students to work with patients with dementia there every year, so if you guys need recruitment, that might be a good place to start.
Thank you, Mikhail.
Yes. Dominique, do you want to ask the question?
It was just kind of a comment. I just really want to extend that. I really appreciate that you guys were able to contact people early enough in your process, and Ty is a great team to be able to speak to that on that subject. So good on you guys.
Thank you. Yes, we agree. Ty is a great resource. He's been very helpful to us, and he has lots of connections to connect us with. Okay, thank you.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. We're gonna take 10 minutes break. This doesn't work. Yeah, I'm trying and it doesn't work. Where's my Zoom? Did I lost my Zoom just now? Oh, Jesus.
So the camera still isn't working.
Huh?
Yeah, this one is not showing.
I think it doesn't pick it up. Like I did something. Yeah, so this is fine. Dominique, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you super good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you
I don't know if you
speak?
can. Hello.
We can. Oh, now we can.
Hello.
Okay, now we can hear you.
Oh yeah. Hello.
Which one? Yeah, I know, but we can't. Like, it's horrible. Okay, let's see which one. LinkedIn, okay. Can you speak?
Now she can't hear us.
Hello. Bonsoir. Bonsoir de Gatineau. Hello. I think that's why I recorded my video just in case.
Can I do this one? Can you speak now?
Hello. Bonsoir.
No, this is not it. See, it's just awful.
That is something we're expecting because we know that different professions probably have different preferred methods, and that's also something that we wanted to kind of assess the differences. But we also have to be just cautious while we're actually interviewing them, being they said that you're saying this, so we have to be really mindful when we're doing that. Is something that we're going to be taking note of and assessing while we're doing the actual data analysis part.
Oh, I already put it on, sorry. Why does it do this to me? Okay, sorry.
¿Está?
No.
¿Está?
Provide you with some key definitions so that they'll have the same understanding of what is a big part.
So really quick, I see you have 4 individuals identified for impact. Do you anticipate any difficulties wrangling these people's busy schedules to ensure that they have the most or the best that they can do in guidance provided?
So we actually have 3 PAC members, and then the rest are going to be kind of part of a committee that we're going to consult. So if we can get the 3 PAC members together, we'll coordinate that schedule. If we can have them all together, that'd be amazing. But they're very busy, obviously. So the whole plan is to try and coordinate those 3 schedules and then kind of do the other ones maybe individually or through email, kind of be flexible like that. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you so much.
So
Hi, I know that relative reporting is a really complex issue, even in adults who often have really similar baselines for what a lot of pain versus a little bit of pain is, and that's obviously complicated in pediatric patients who some of them may have gotten some pretty serious injuries and experienced some pretty intense pain, and others who might have experienced at worst disease. So with relative pain reporting, I know that's a really difficult concept to get into, and then especially in pediatric populations, there's the emotional component. So are you guys going to be looking at different factors that might impact pain reporting, like emotional distress versus physical pain?
Well, I think we're starting with talking to healthcare professionals about how they assess pain, and that might be one of the things they bring up, and if it is, then that'll be part of our qualitative analysis. In terms of the actual emotional experience of the patient themselves, that might be a later phase of the project.
Also, Dr. Evan Doyon-Charnier, she's more of an expert in pain assessment. So we're going to be discussing with her, kind of also getting her input as well, because for us this is kind of new. We don't know how pain is actually assessed because we're not the one doing it. So kind of having her a bit of her guidance might help us kind of figure out this stuff.
Okay, good, thank you. We're going to check it one more time.
Hi everyone, welcome to our presentation beyond participation, right into the meaningful.
The speakers.
If ever, I can also comment in case it works. It's just if the internet's a little bit choppy reception.
Yeah, well, it's choppier here, it seems.
Okay, let me just try it again.
And I just transferred you like another version as well, if ever.
It's not good. The speakers. Okay. Okay, guys, sorry about this. We'll take 5 minutes break. We'll try to fix it. I don't understand why these speakers are doing this to me. Hey, Dominique, can you wait a sec? Just wait 5 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
That's the pre-recorded presentation that she recorded that I was trying to put.
It's okay. It's okay. HDMI?
Well, that's the one. So now I'm basically connected through the screen rather than through the website, because through the website we can't. So through the website, what happens is they can hear us, we cannot hear them. I can see them speaking, but we cannot hear them.
Let me see what I can do.
So I'm not sure which one you want, because that's the one that you just connect to the screen.
I want the website one.
The website one is this one.
No. Hold on.
I'm already connected to that.
You're on Auditorium?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I was connected. It's just you couldn't hear it.
Sorry,
Let's go here.
Where is
Okay,
oh, you're on.
Yeah.
Okay, go there. It's okay. It's all right. I just didn't want to.
I don't understand where it is.
Okay, so there it is.
Yeah, so it's here. So do you want?
Yeah. It's okay, just put it on. I know.
So that you can see the camera there.
Okay, the camera can come actually to here. Where's the camera?
No.
See if they can hear us now.
They could hear us. We couldn't hear them.
Okay. So, where is the Zoom? Where's the... Okay. You're going to have to mute your speakers. Okay. Dominique, can you say something?
Allô? Ça marche? I hear myself in an echo.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
So she was speaking, but it's just the sound is like choppy.
their value becomes increasingly recognized. Patient partners are experts in fields of experience who bring in unique perspectives and learned skill sets. Their insights enrich healthcare initiatives from direct patient care to research innovation to education and so much more. Patient partners include patients, caregivers, and family members, both formal and informal, who offer invaluable perspectives shaped by their healthcare journeys. Their contributions are now essential to advancing healthcare in numerous ways. Our project aims to improve the meaningful integration of patient partners' impactful contributions to collaborative initiatives. What does that exactly mean? It's about creating a learning environment through constructive feedback, fostering trust and emotional connection. It recognizes their insights as equally valuable as any team member, and aligning shared values and focusing on both tangible and intangible impacts. We ensure that contributions are purposeful and meaningful to everyone involved, including addressing what's in it for them. While their involvement is recognized at all levels, a gap remains in meaningfully incorporating them in collaborative initiatives. Without training, professionals may undervalue patient partners' presence and overlook their contributions, risking negatively impacting the outcome. Now this is a question for the group. What do these elements and patient partners have in common? I will leave you a few seconds so that you can just drop your comments in the chat. Looking forward to see what you're thinking. What are the elements of the image that you're seeing correlate with patient partners? All right. So healthcare now is mandating to increase patient partners' practice in various committees. This may lead to tokenism as healthcare professionals can invite patient partners to join discussions without meaningfulness. So act as this chair, this blunt, or this curtain. Patient partners are often nice to have. And I want to improve that for my organization. Thanks to meaningful incorporation of patient partners, policies and activities now better reflect patients' perspectives and needs. Tools and technologies are being created tailored to the patient perspectives. And there's so much more. I'm conducting this project as an organizational initiative within the Endeavor region, which spans over 30,000 square kilometers, serving a variety of individuals a population of over 400,000 individuals from a variety of socioeconomic statuses and ethnic backgrounds. There's roughly 100 patient partners on board, and 40 of them are on projects. Most of them are white retired individuals. Our healthcare providers do not have any training on working with patient partners. And I don't know if you're aware, but since December 1st, our healthcare sector is going under a turbulent reform, where we are now known as Santé Québec, which is one employer for the whole healthcare sector in Quebec and the whole of the province. So my project will be all that much more meaningful. My project problem, or the problem that I observed, was that there's a lack of meaningful engagement between the organization, healthcare professionals, and patient partners in those collaborative initiatives, likely due to the lack of knowledge healthcare professionals have that contributes to patient partners' lived experiences being overlooked. To address the problem, so we need to enhance the meaningful integration of the patient partners' perspectives in these collaborative initiatives. My project aims to answer the following question: how can healthcare organizations effectively incorporate meaningful patient partners' impactful contributions in healthcare collaborative initiatives? My goals will be to discover barriers and facilitators, and code strategies, and present a series of recommendations based on these strategies to enhance the collaborative initiatives within my organization. I will need 3 points of contact with both patient partners and healthcare professionals, with a heavier patient partner number through semi-structured individuals, semi-structured interviews, focus groups, and a presentation of the final recommendations and a satisfaction questionnaire. The project next steps are to stay on top of my research ethics, complete my amendments in light of my PAC's feedback, refine my participant questions, and prepare for my January, which is my goal life month for recruitment. I'm honored to have the support of individuals excelling in various sectors, I have a healthcare organizational expert in research and innovation, Monsieur François Sauvé, and a retired CEO with a deep community, engagement and change management expertise, Monsieur Bob Gallagher. I have also a strategic advisor skilled in patient partnerships and concept, Dr. Audrey Esperance, and a standout patient partner with communications proficiency, Monsieur Maxime Lee. And I'm also mentored by a qualitative researcher with a strong community focus, Dr. Daniel Hood. I believe my project is well timed. My November goals are dated. December focuses on the REB's amendments and preparation for my January Go Live month. February, March are all the data collections and treatments, and I aim to have my defense activities wrapped up by late March or early April. I hope you enjoyed my presentation. I enjoyed giving it to you guys, and I can't wait to hear your feedback and your comments. And if you have any questions or want to know more, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help.
Hi, Dominique. I have, my family lives in the Ottawa region, so I'm aware that a lot of people who live in, especially the Gatineau region of the National Capital Region, often will go over the Quebec-Ontario border to seek healthcare. And I was just wondering about, I was just wondering about how you're going to be accounting for people either from Ontario going to Quebec to receive care and people in Quebec going to Ontario to receive care, if that's not something that you're looking at.
Well, currently, it's a great question because the reality is we are 15 minutes away from Ontario, so it's one of the logistical issues that we've been having in our local healthcare. But for the good of my project, I decided to focus on. Oh, hello? Are you able to hear me? Oh, that's good. Just let me know if you guys can hear me so I'll be able to. I'm seeing the MSN document. Oh. I don't know if it works. Are you guys able to hear me? I'll answer in the chat if ever anyone's listening.
Can you speak now?
Oh, hello.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. All right. Hi, thanks for asking your questions. It's actually quite relevant. Like for those who may not be aware, like Gatineau is literally just 15 minutes away from another province, another jurisdiction. So we do have unique issues at the Gatineau Hospital. Though for the purposes of my project, I decided to really focus on the internal Gatineau perspective. So anyone who's used or became a patient partner with.
Dominique, can you stop for a second? Chris, can you speak? Sorry,
Hello?
because we have a huge echo.
Can you hear me?
Can you speak? Can you speak?
Yes. Yes, I'm speaking right now. Can you hear me? Hello?
So Dominique, it's your connection. We can barely hear you.
Hello? Oh, shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe if I speak closer to my, is it better?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just be physically closer. Sorry, my apologies. So it's a very important question. It's one of the things that it's been a local reality is that we are literally 50 minutes away from Ottawa. But we do have this unique logistics about the Gatineau health sector. So for the purposes of my project, I'm focusing on anyone who's had our patient partnership experience within the Gatineau hospital. I don't know if
Okay, thank you. You guys ready? Because Cheyenne, because Federico is not here.
I'm walking. Should we talk through this one? Yeah.
This one is working also, so one of them.
I'm scared I'm gonna like. Yeah, that's okay. This one is way more sensitive. Okay. If we're ready. Thank you. Okay. Just start my timer. All right. So hi everyone, we'll be presenting our Capstone project titled Pre-Exposure Prophylaxis Access Navigator, creating a comprehensive application cheat sheet for the Trillium Drug Program. Oh, sorry, I did too good of a job. But like, I feel like this one doesn't work as well, does it? Turn it off. Can you do that? Okay, here, I'll stand here. So for people who are unaware, pre-exposure prophylaxis is a drug that people who do not live with HIV take. It's essentially there to prevent HIV infection in humans. So to give a quick overview, we'll give you some background, our study rationale, things that we have done, things we're hoping on doing, and then we'll be open to 2 questions from the audience. All right, so I'm gonna start with a case study. Meet Kai. Kai lives in Thunder Bay, they're 28. They work as a freelance graphic designer and also as a retail associate, or at least before they got laid off. Now Kai's looking at income and expenses, everyday expenses, like rent, food, gas, you get the gist. And it's really piling up because Kai's really tight for money right now. Trying to cut down on spending, Kai's looking at what's a really big drain on their income right now, and medication is taking up about 4% of Kai's money. Specifically, one really expensive drug is pre-exposure prophylaxis, which, as I said, is preventative medication that is costing Kai $250 per month. So Kai is here with a dilemma. Should Kai continue spending money on this medication or just let go? So in an effort to try to stay on PrEP, Kai looked for resources to find financial coverage, and after lengthy research, they came across the Trillium Drug Program. And so they thought, great, we got an application, I'm just gonna complete it, and I'll be on my way. But after opening the application process, Kai was asked for weird documentation, there's a bunch of fine print that Kai had to go through, definitions, and overall it was a really time-consuming process. They were able to get their hands on a guide from the Trillium Drug Program, but this is like a very dense policy document that was also really time consuming to go through. So Kai just found it way more time efficient to get off PrEP, and unfortunately is no longer on the medication. This is a reality for far too many Ontarians. This is a CDC article that came out December 1st of this year, and they were talking specifically about how pre-exposure prophylaxis is very expensive, and while there are programs like the Trillium Drug Program, the application process is particularly difficult to navigate. So that's where we come in. The PrEP Access Navigator tool will offer users 2 services. The first is a triage, which will essentially assess whether someone is eligible for the Trillium Drug Program. And for people who aren't eligible, they'll be directed to other resources that will be able to keep them on the medication. Now, for people who are eligible for the Trillium Drug Program, we'll walk them through step-by-step on the application process, giving them, engaging visuals, explaining terminology in a way that actually makes sense to people, and hopefully streamline the application process so we can get more people who are eligible for TDP on the program. So how are we going to do this? We have a really great team. So on the top, we have our PAC members, which include an academic advisor, community-based advisor, as well as a policy expert. And of course, people who do not require any sort of introduction, our advisors, Dr. Joseph Fehrenbach and Gilbert Sharp. Now, how are we going to do this? I'll just walk you through really briefly. We're going to start with a bit of PAC consultation as well as community consultation, and also go through the TDP application process ourselves. We'll then create a prototype where we'll then put through a usability trial where community members who would actually be using this tool are able to try to go through our tool. We'll take their feedback, implement it into a revised prototype, and put that through another usability trial to see if anything's improved. Once we reach saturation, we'll be able to implement our final tool on multiple community sites. And we'll also be talking about our process and the impact of our work through various conferences, such as the Translational Science Conference, which we just got acceptance in as well. We'll also be implementing some internal quality improvement measures and a standard operating procedure to ensure sustainability and that the tool is keeping up with any changes that's occurring in terms of TDP policy.
Now, what we've done so far, the first very big milestone that we had was onboarding 2 of our PAC members, our advisory committee. It was really important for us to spend enough time to make sure that we have the right people. We want to make sure that we're on the right path and they guide us towards the things that we might not see. The third PAC member, we had a little bit of an up and down, but we've narrowed it down to the third person. Hopefully we'll onboard them by the end of the month, and after New Year's, we'll have our first full PAC committee. The other really big milestone was mapping out the TDP. As you can see, we have tried to map it out in a framework called a decision tree. It was really important for us to go through all of the steps in the TDP policy as well as the application to make sure that what are the questions being asked, what are the requirements. And in this decision tree, basically what's happening is that you will start from the very first step, and based on your answers, a branch will open up, which will take the participant to the specific place which they need to be. And now on to Zoe.
So right now what we're doing is we're developing the initial mock-ups and the initial models of our tool using Figma, which is a design application. This is helping us see how our tool functions and what it looks like, and it's allowing us to look at different design elements to make sure that our tool is accessible and intuitive for our future users. While we're doing this, we're also talking to different experts in design about what elements might be important to include. And here's just a really early draft mock-up. So we're excited to see what it looks like on Figma itself. So going forward, one of our next really big steps is participant recruitment. So right now we're just waiting for our REB approval, and as soon as we get that, we're going to start rolling participant recruitment. We hope to meet our recruitment thresholds by February so that we can start with our first trial in mid to late March. This is really important to us because, like we've been talking about, we really want to make sure that it's accessible, easy to understand, and we can get as much feedback from diverse participants as possible to improve our tool. So overall, we've gotten a lot done, and we're really happy with where we are. We're starting to see the whole project come together, and it's really exciting. Yeah, are there any questions?
Microphone.
People already have difficulties accessing and understanding how do you share about the platform that you're creating and how they have access to the outcome that you're trying to produce?
Okay, there's actually 2 big elements that are like access blocks to people who want to use the TDP for prep access. One is knowledge. The TDP is not very well publicized about. A lot of people don't really know about it. We're going to be partnering with community organizations that do a lot of really effective knowledge dissemination. So through that partnership, we are hoping that we're going to be able to improve application rates through that. And then in terms of application success, there's a lot of documentation that goes into the application, and there's a lot of exceptions depending on what you do or do not have available. So we're hoping to be able to give people essentially like a checklist that don't currently exist so that they know what they need and they can just like do it without worrying.
So like if you're going through the community centers, are these centers that were already talking about the fact that
access it.
Yes.
And so then, do you think there might be stigma from patients who might have already tried to access PrEP through those clinics to not use the platform?
Stigma how?
Like, for example, for example, let's say that a patient went to the clinic to try to get help to find access to PrEP, and that clinic was unable to provide them, and so now they're thinking, I can't trust this clinic, and the clinic wasn't able to help me. But now that you put in a tool through the same clinic, do you think there might be difficulties getting patients on board with using that tool?
I don't like, so it's a consideration. Really, TDP can be used for more than one thing besides like PrEP. So if people are coming for support specifically on PrEP, it wouldn't single them out like, oh, I can't do PrEP specific help, but I can give you TDP help. Like, I think like it will be a umbrella. Like they don't know what the medication is necessarily for. So I don't know if that would be like a common situation. Also, the people that we'll be working with routinely offer like one-on-one support already. So at least from the scope of our project, that isn't something that we're anticipating. Yeah, good question.
I guess I don't know if it's like a question, more like a comment. Have you considered, I don't know if you mentioned it in your presentation, I might have missed it. There's like an HIV and Hep C like program under the Ministry of Health, like specific like infectious disease programs. Have you considered maybe kind of switching it to them to kind of have broader scope to get the platform out there faster?
We'd have to look into the program.
Yeah. If
That
you
is.
have the information, just send it to us. We'll look into it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Christina, do you want to share your screen?
Can everyone hear me? People in the room too? I see people online can hear me, but is the room also hear me?
Okay, can you restart?
Yes, so I haven't started yet.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Christina Boston. I'm a cornea transplant surgeon at the University of Montreal Ophthalmology Center, where I've been treating patients living with corneal blindness for the past 2 years. I'm also a clinician investigator, and my research work involves preclinical and clinical development and evaluation of regenerative corneal therapies. Today, I present to you Transport, the Translational Success in Corneal Regenerative Medicine project. So I'm just gonna go back for a second because I'm not sure my slides are working as needed. Okay. Okay, so it seems like I can't move the slides. Let's see. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to restart the sharing. Give me 1 second. Okay. So share. slides work now? Okay, sorry about that. I'm gonna start from the second slide here. So this is a normal cornea. It's like a transparent window that allows clear vision. And when diseased, it becomes opacified, leading to blindness. And the only currently available treatment is cornea transplantation, which, as you can see here, restores clarity and vision. However, the supply of cornea grafts is limited and is growing scarcer with the aging population. Globally, 12.7 million people are waiting for a cornea transplant, and only one cornea is available for every 70 patients who need it. To address this limited supply, researchers have been working on regenerative medicine alternatives such as cell, tissue engineering, gene, and drug-based therapies. However, despite decades of research, very few of these have successfully crossed the valley of death of translation from bench to bedside. Furthermore, despite regulatory approval of some of these therapies, clinical uptake by end users, accessibility, and societal impact, especially in underserviced areas, are still an issue. In practice today, cornea transplantation remains the gold standard treatment for cornea blindness. There is therefore a clear need to accelerate the clinical translation of emerging cornea regenerative therapies to address the ever-growing global burden of cornea blindness. One of the problems in doing so is that there is currently no objective way to determine the translational potential of promising emerging corneal regenerative therapies. This is essential both for decisions regarding allocation of resources, efforts, and time to develop a given therapy, and for building a customized strategy to increase the translational potential of a therapy and thus accelerates its progress along the pipeline. Our solution is to develop a translational potential assessment and improvement tool. Our ambition is to make safe and effective cornea regenerative alternatives available to cornea blind patients faster. This tool will directly help cornea researchers developing such therapies, but also indirectly to patients living with corneal blindness and their eye care providers. It will also be of relevance to funding entities and industry who must make resource allocation decisions early in the development process. Within the scope of this Capstone project, our objectives are two. First, determine the current state of translation of cornea regenerative therapies, including rate and speed of translation, bottlenecks, and determining factors. Develop a low-fidelity prototype of a translational potential assessment tool for these therapies, and conduct a first end-user test of our low-fidelity prototype and collect feedback on concept, content, design, and usability. We will proceed first with a literature-based analysis of the state of translation in this field, where we will identify promising cornea regenerative therapies in animal preclinical development published between 1980 and 2010. We will then track their translational progress over 15 years and compare factors differentiating successfully and unsuccessfully translated technologies to elicit those that could be included in our tool. This data will be used to develop a low-fidelity prototype of the translational potential assessment tool. Once we have the prototype in hand, we will approach a small group of cornea researchers to test the prototype and elicit feedback. Our team is composed of myself and 4 research associates, Marie-Anne Gras, a clinical research assistant, Dr. Alison Bernstein, an ophthalmology resident, Lorena Mija and Miriam Belesh, who are UDM medical students. We also have Alexander Amar Vivkin as our information specialist, as well as Drs. Mark Lesk and Kelly McShane, who are our PAC members, and of course, Joseph Fehrenbach, our TRP advisor. To date, we have completed our needs assessment, project proposal, team and pack assembly, a grant application for a grant from the University of Montreal Department of Ophthalmology. Our REB submission for the consultation with cornea researchers at the prototype testing stage is underway. We have now begun our literature-based analysis, and we are specifically working on establishing our literature search, algorithms, and screening criteria. And two of our members who will be conducting the literature screening are currently in training on the use of our citation management system, Covidence, and are preparing a screening exercise to establish their inter-reviewer reliability. We foresee finalizing our literature-based analysis by May 2025 and using May to establish our translational potential assessment tool design requirements and low-fidelity prototype. We should be starting prototype testing by June 2025 and will hopefully have our results by August next year. That's all from me. I thank you all for listening. I hope this wasn't too difficult to hear from afar, but please get in touch if you want to learn more, either about this project or my research in general. Thank you very much.
Questions? Come on, guys, questions, anybody?
Questions? Come on, guys.
Like I said, if you're not clear on something, ask.
I have one.
You have a microphone?
Translational potential.
Could you repeat it? I'm sorry, that got lost in the phone.
What do you mean by translational potential?
So that is a very good question. I think that the way translational potential can be defined is whether or not a given invention or technology can accomplish translation. So it can go from those initial stages of development to further stages of development and to finally being used by the end users and bring either societal or economical or patient impact, depending on what technology exactly that is. So whether or not that invention can move forward along the translational pipeline. So that's how I define translational potential for this project.
Well, I have to tell you though, we were promised an upgrade on the system. Supposedly it should be done by July, or at least they have to spend the money by July. If they don't, the money is taken away. So we'll see. Okay.
Good? Yeah. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Gabriella. This is Athlin, and we'll be presenting for our group today. Our project is called Optimizing the Transition of Cancer Survivorship Care from Oncologists to Primary Care Providers. Cancer survivorship aims to holistically address the ongoing physical and psychosocial needs of cancer patients from the point of diagnosis and onwards. Research suggests that primary care providers, who will be known as PCPs throughout this presentation, can provide a holistic approach and optimize cancer survivorship care. Additionally, they can order surveillance testing and address ongoing treatment side effects. The Princess Margaret Cancer Center has identified barriers for survivorship care. The oncology units don't have the capacity to manage the number of patients they have. For reference, last year they had over 19,000 new patients and had over 250,000 clinic visits.
While PCPs can take on this care, limited resources are available to assist in this process. Additionally, there are undefined roles on what the oncologist should be doing and what the PCP should be doing regarding cancer survivorship care.
So our team is actually going to be working in collaboration with another team at Princess Margaret Cancer Center. And so the team at Princess Margaret will be researching how can specialized cancer care teams support primary care providers to provide follow-up care for their transition patients, whereas our team is going to focus on how communication between the oncologist and primary care providers can be improved to assist the PCPs in providing cancer follow-up care to cancer survivors. And so we just decided to include a stakeholder map to kind of show what we've been doing in terms of contextual inquiry. We've met with many PCPs and a few who we want to invite to become our PAC members. And this is really just to understand the space and what's going on. And so we took perspectives from both the oncologists and the primary care providers to really understand what field we want to be working in. And so this slide is just a snapshot of our project. We identified there was a lack of clarity as to what was expected of primary care providers in their patient survivorship journeys. And the problem here is that there's a lack of effective communication between the oncologist and the primary care providers. And this is affecting the transition of patients from hospital-based care back to community-based care with their primary care providers. And so we found that the need is to improve the communication between the oncologist and the primary care providers. And so our audience is the whole post-cancer care continuum at Princess Margaret Cancer Center, but more specifically, our outcomes will impact how the oncologists interact with primary care providers and provide information. And then to do this, we're going to be using surveys and formal interviews to understand their perspectives and create a guide for effective communication.
To encourage organization and efficiency throughout our capstone, we've outlined 5 phases for our project. These phases are as follows: preparation, exploration, validation, addressing the need, and then co-design and implementation. We began the preparation phase in the summer. This phase started with us brainstorming areas we may want to work in based on our interests and resources. Once we determined that we had a common interest in cancer care, we began a literature search to determine if there were any gaps or unmet needs in this area. Through the literature, we found that there was potential work to be done in the area of cancer survivorship, specifically in follow-up care. Once we had this general direction, we began reaching out to stakeholders to conduct contextual inquiry. We had the opportunity to speak to several physicians who were part of cancer care teams. During these conversations, they all shared similar information on the current state. They expressed that they are currently overburdened and follow-up care can be done by family physicians in certain cases. However, there seems to be a barrier that is impacting the transition of patients back to family care. After gathering this information, we wanted to round out our perspectives and speak to PCPs. We continued our contextual inquiry in October, this time aiming to gather information from the PCP side. Based on these conversations, we were able to brainstorm key barriers that are affecting family physicians' ability to take on cancer follow-up care. A lack of effective communication between the oncologist and PCPs is the main barrier that is affecting the transition of care. Using this knowledge, we began our exploration phase, which mainly consists of creating and distributing a survey. This survey will be sent to PCPs and aims to gather important data on their confidence levels in taking on follow-up care, how information is currently being communicated between teams, and how it can be improved. Throughout November and December, we have been working with Princess Margaret team and our mentors to finalize our survey questions. We are excited to say we are nearly ready and are preparing for distribution in the new year. In January, we aim to disseminate the survey on REDCap to existing physician networks and use snowball sampling to increase our sample size. We hope to begin analyzing our data in February and use this information to create semi-structured interview guides. We aim to conduct these interviews in March with survey participants who opted into being contacted for interviews related to this project. These interviews aim to expand on areas that were most relevant according to the survey data and validate that we have determined the need accurately. Additionally, we hope to use these interviews to begin brainstorming ideas for a deliverable.
And so now just some of our recent progress that we were very excited to share. We're almost ready to submit our QI amendment draft to UHN for our project. And while this is a waiting game, our team doesn't anticipate waiting. We want to really work while we're waiting for our QI submission. So we'll be able to submit once we've done our final iteration of the survey. And so for this, as Gabby mentioned, we've shared the survey with a few primary care physicians because we really want to know their perspectives toward this survey and what they think of it. We're really interested in knowing their thoughts about the complexity, the length specifically, because we know that primary care providers are very busy
And so we've actually narrowed down our survey from a 30-question survey down to 10 questions that can be completed within 5 minutes, because we recognize that primary care providers don't have the timeline around. And then we've also brought on 2 of our 3 PAC members with our meeting with our potential third member this Wednesday. We're also excited to share that our project was accepted as a poster presentation at the Washington conference in April. And then lastly, we're planning, thank you. We're planning some team bonding activities the next week just to celebrate how far we've come. And so on that point, we actually found that teamwork and collaboration was one of the most important aspects of our project. Especially in the early stages, we sat down together and we created a team charter that outlined our preferred working styles and outlined our preferences. And that's actually where we found that we all really prefer working in the early mornings. So every Saturday at 9 a.m. our group meets regardless of whether we need to. And we kind of just discuss what we've been working on, what we want to do, what our next steps are. And it's really an opportunity for us to talk about our findings and what we thought when we met with Joseph and Ardita, who are our advisors. And so in these meetings, we also delegate tasks because we found that it was much better for us to be working on different things at the same time as opposed to everybody working on the same thing. And that really helps us bring a lot of different ideas to the table when we are working on projects. And so to do this, we have a shared Google Drive. And so everybody updates meeting notes, we update progress, and we started doing summary documents for our progress milestones, which we'll need to submit by end of the year, I think. And then because our team communicates so frequently, we're always open and honest about our opinions, and that way we're able to work really well together. And I will admit that it was not the case when we first started our project, and we did run into a lot of road bumps. But because we've learned to communicate really well with each other, we've got a system that works, our project has been running quite smoothly. And that concludes our presentation for today. Sorry. Anybody have questions for us? Sorry.
Some of the things that they mentioned, about group work, you can actually use it in your group work systems,
Sure. So we're working with Princess Margaret, and we've approached different clinics within the hospital, and a few have expressed interest so far. I think mainly endocrine and head and neck. So we've been meeting with the different cancer care teams at the hospital to see who would be interested in working on this project with us. So far, we've secured those 2, but we're still meeting to see if anyone else would be interested.
We also recognize that our final outcome might not be applicable to all the same clinics in the same way. So we really need to decide if we want to focus in towards one clinic or like one site, or if we want to create a more broader based summary. Some of the barriers that we've seen is clinics are really busy with the number of patients that they have. And so getting in touch with the breast site has actually been one of the biggest challenges for us just because they don't have the time. So we're trying to look for any opportunity that we can to meet with the different site clinics to see if we can collaborate.
Thank you.
We're very tired.
Thank you for your presentation too. I'm curious, could you define like the snowball sampling effect and how are you going to apply that with what you just mentioned of having a very diverse, or you're trying to narrow down what
I can take it. So the survey is going to be for PCPs. And basically, we already have existing networks that we're going to be sending the survey to. And then from there, we're going to encourage participants, if they know of any other PCPs who may be interested in filling out the survey, to send it to them. And by that, we're hoping to get a few extra people. So hopefully it works out. Good, okay.
Okay. 22. 22. This one. 22. This one. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And okay.
Okay, can everyone hear me? I'm good? All right, everyone in back? Perfect. So, team synapse. We are presenting here on functional neurological disorder. Let's get into it. So, back in June, Carl and I met and we said, hey, would you like to work with each other on the Capstone project? I said, yeah, sure. Let's discuss, what we want to get out of this project. So, some of the things that we mentioned and we came up after a conversation was, well, we want to look and do something in the field of neuroscience. We have some previous experience in there. It's something that we're interested in, so it has to have neuroscience. We want to look at the health systems as well. It's very fascinating to see how different teams of clinical leads work together and how patients navigate that system. And of course, we want to contribute to a field that is growing, and we want to contribute in a capacity of adding research and exploring further. And it's something that becomes as interesting for us. So all of those things we are able to capture in the topic of functional neurological disorder. It's a condition which is rapidly growing in the neuroscience space in terms of advocacy and awareness. It's very interesting how it all works in the healthcare system. You have a lot of interdisciplinary teams, and there's a very cumbersome patient pathway. And of course, there's limited research, especially here in Ontario. Now, that begs the question, what is functional neurological disorder? Functional neurological disorder, otherwise known as FND, is a umbrella term for a diagnosis, which is a neurological diagnosis. It presents and manifests as tremors, numbness, fatigue, seizures, gait changes. It's the second most common diagnosis in outpatient neurology clinics. Fortunately, there are no biomarkers or neuroimaging methods for this diagnosis, so it's purely based off of symptoms. And unfortunately, there's an average wait time of 6 to 8 years to actually receive an adequate diagnosis. So we hit the ground running with our new topic, and we conducted a contextual inquiry. On the screen there, you can see some of the different stakeholders that we met. After we finished our contextual inquiry, we found and listed a few of these key things that came up. I'll point out some of them here. We have research to practice, interdisciplinary collaboration, i.e. the need for that, the stigma, and that was interesting because it was both from the patient side and the clinician side with respects to the diagnosis and treatment, etc. There's also limited specialists for patients to access and the patient pathway. This is actually a very important thing that came up from our contextual inquiry. So let's go to the next slide where we can actually see a visualization of the patient pathway. So it starts off with the patients experiencing some form of the symptoms that were previously mentioned. Typically what will happen next is that they'll go to their family physician or to the ER. Then in the most ideal cases, the ER or the family physician will refer them to a neurologist. The neurologist, oftentimes because of the complexity of cases for FND, will then send these people to an FND specialist. That FND specialist will be able to complete a more thorough assessment on the patient and then connect them with the appropriate treatments. These treatments are in the form of therapists that are working to limit the symptoms that are present among these patients. Now, that is in the most ideal cases. There's actually a very big hole in this entire pathway. And the first one comes up with the family physicians. They actually end up oftentimes giving a wrong diagnosis. This wrong diagnosis causes the patients to then go back to the family physicians or to the ER, and it creates a bit of a loop. There's a sentiment of agony on the patient side, of course, and then this builds up the stigma for the physicians. This same pattern also arises with the neurologists. Not every neurologist is especially equipped to deal with FND cases, again, due to their complexity. Now, this is a really big problem area, and this is where we wanted to look at and address first because it looked like such a glaring, obvious issue. So we wanted to look at something that could address our different gaps and then also that same area. And the first idea that we came up with from our list of ideas was Project ECHO. Project ECHO is a telementoring model connecting specialists with local providers to expand access to care in underserved areas. This is used in other illnesses or diagnoses as well, or conditions. We have this for concussions also. But further, and it was able to address, several of our gaps. Now, we ran into some pretty big barriers with Project Echo. The top two biggest ones being that, it takes maybe 30K to actually fund it. It's pretty substantial. The ones that are running now are getting their funding from the province. And the province isn't, unfortunately, giving out money for other Project Echoes. The second big issue would be that at that point when we were contemplating it, we had maybe a year and a half. But to properly set up an echo, get the time for the data and everything, it would take maybe 2 years. So ultimately, we decided to terminate the idea in October. And I think this is a really great example of something we talk a lot about in class, which is fail early, fail fast. So we went back to the chopping blocks and we were looking at triaging with our other options and what we could do next. Through our Project Echo initiative, we were able to network and meet a lot of clinicians who are leading in the FND space. These are representatives across all of these different hospitals, and through that network, we were able to join the rapidly growing FND working group, which is working towards putting together a stronger provincial ask. So we've come in at the game at the right time, and we're connected with all the right people. Now, looking back at the patient pathway, instead of focusing on the big jumble over there, we wanted to really narrow in. So the next area that we wanted to look at was this right here, where we have the FND specialists and the treatment. It worked out great because we had access to these specialists. So zooming in more, right, we see we have FND specialists connecting people to treatment. Earlier in the slide, you saw that it was a pretty straight arrow. Now, that's not really the case, and it's actually better described with a dotted arrow. The reason for that being that there's a lot of gaps. A lot of people fall through the gaps when they reach this stage because of the fact that they don't accept their diagnosis. There's a big issue with physicians convincing, for lack of a better word, or communicating perhaps the diagnosis and convincing the patient that they have this illness or this disorder. So we've identified a need here, a better way for clinicians to communicate FND diagnosis to their patients. Why is it important? Well, to ensure that patients are able to effectively take up treatment. Research shows that when patients accept their diagnosis, that's the first step in actually accessing care and actually having a better prognosis. So it works out great with the patient pathway, because ultimately everything has to come down to that, and all of those patients do have to be pushed through. And so we're coming in at a really great spot to have an awesome intervention that has pretty large clinical implications. Our intervention would look to add in an educational workshop that would be different to any of the other things that are provided currently. And it would be a resource for the physicians to use to give to the patients in order to ultimately improve prognosis for their diagnosis.
And just to clarify, this educational workshop is intended for the patients themselves. So referring clinicians would have a better armamentarium for their patients to go to after being diagnosed with FND.
Our our educational workshop would be looking to answer how effective, or our research question would be, how effective is the FND educational workshop in improving the acceptance of the diagnosis among patients? The outcomes we were looking for would be a greater understanding of FND and a greater acceptance of the diagnosis. In terms of next steps, our immediate next steps are looking to complete the program design and then submitting a QI application through Sunnybrook, and continually working with our PAC members or our future PAC members and our TRP advisors to collect feedback and refine the project. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Questions?
Okay. I have a question about the workshop. I guess it's a twofold question. One, you said the workshops for the patients to better understand and accept their diagnosis. Is accepting diagnosis a big problem where patients are like, oh, I don't know?
Yeah. Studies have shown that patients, 85% of patients feel disbelieved that they have a genuine disorder. And so they have been stigmatized a lot by the society and even healthcare providers who basically lack understanding of what FND is and how it can be diagnosed and managed. So we need to target the root problem of their lack of engagement in therapy, which is basically the lack of understanding and agreement with the diagnosis.
And then follow-up question. How did you, or do you already have the criteria for like what's going to happen in the workshop, and how did you develop that?
Okay, so we're planning to actually co-design the educational workshop with the stakeholders, those hospitals that we featured here earlier. So they would be part of an integrated interdisciplinary team that will come up with a 1 to 2 hour educational workshop. So the details of the workshop will have to be still planned, like the format, the schedule, the content, the outline, the presentation. We'll present. We're even planning to include people with lived experiences of FND so that people who will attend, including the patients and their family members, will gain understanding of what FND is and be inspired that FND is something treatable if caught and diagnosed early and if managed appropriately.
How did you determine that an educational workshop
You know, a lot of it is through failure, honestly, because we had a lot of other things that we do beforehand as well. The patient pathway that we were looking at, there's a lot of different points that we could have addressed. But for example, okay, the Project Echoes, that was a pretty big one that we were working on, and we hit a lot of barriers. We reached out to different people, it just wasn't moving forward, right? We were looking at other forms of, telemedicine. We're in this working group with which is this group is fantastic because they're working to make a larger provincial ask to really improve the infrastructure for FND care. So we have in our contextual inquiry, we do speak to patients. But what a lot of the contextual inquiry is actually built on the side of physicians. That our tool is coming in on the physician side. Yeah.
If patients with FND struggle with cognitive functions, do you think there will be pushback for patients wanting to participate in those workshops if they're already struggling and then you're telling them they have to do more work to understand a diagnosis that they don't want?
Yeah, so I guess I would have to answer that from the clinical side. Like from what we see among patients, a key barrier to recovery is the lack of self-agency. So we actually would rather use the term therapy than treatment because in this unique population, we're not like applying treatment to them, but we're trying to engage them and improve their self-efficacy and engage them with active treatment or therapy.
Have you asked patients if they want a
Yeah.
workshop?
Yeah. And they actually want the support group as well, which is severely lacking in our local area.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, if the family physician or the ER is giving you a wrong diagnosis and I send the specialist that also gives you a wrong diagnosis, how are you gaining end users within your workshop if nobody is getting a proper diagnosis of it?
So what ends up happening is that family physicians, ER, they're maybe the first point, and it happens where there's a wrong diagnosis, right? And then they go back and it's a bit of a loop, but eventually they do get pushed through to say, okay, this is FND. Just because of the nature of FND, they often will just start excluding all these other things. Okay, you don't have this, you don't have that. So the last thing on the list is FND, and then they move them forward. And then with the neurologists specifically, it's just that not all neurologists have an understanding of FND. So there's this loop that can happen there as well. But once they get down to the FND specialist, they're better able to see these symptoms and they know this is FND, and so that their treatment can properly begin from there. Does that help to answer?
100%. But if nobody knows that they have FND, then what would your end user base look like?
It's actually multifactorial. Like it's the slide that we showed earlier might be an oversimplification of what it is in reality. like there are a lot of patients diagnosed with FND, but they don't receive appropriate treatments. So as mentioned earlier, FND is the second most common reason to see a neurologist, and about a third of patients in the outpatient neurology clinics are actually FND or functional in nature. So there's a lot of potential to do treatments or to do therapies with, like in terms of the patient population. But in terms of the diagnosis, the misdiagnosis in itself, so that will be multifactorial, so we'll not touch on that. We tried to by providing like Project Echo opportunity for them, but it's actually up to the healthcare providers to like read it up in the literature, encourage each other, learn from each other to know more about FND. But hopefully, when this like care pathway, including the educational workshop, takes off, it will be like sort of spreading the word to the other healthcare providers that probably there could be something done to those patients with medically unexplained symptoms. So spreading awareness on the diagnosis.
There's a lot of problems, and so it's hard to figure out where you want to go. Looking at what you can do within your capstone timeline as well is important, and what's feasible. And so that's why we nailed down or trying to nail down over there. Go ahead.
I have a question as well about the flow of the education workshop. So when somebody gets diagnosed with FND, this workshop is going to be delivered to them. So is it like a virtual thing that they have to do on their own, or is it something that they have to come in person? And also, if you could comment on the content of the workshop based on the reviews that you guys are part of. I just wanted to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So sorry. Okay. So the first part of the question, we're going between, okay, should we do virtual, should we do in person? There's some benefits to both. I think we're leading towards in person. I think it's fair to say it would be great if we can shift it to virtual, because that doesn't cause a barrier for people who are coming from further away, right? With the group that we have right now, we'll probably end up doing in person. They've mentioned that they want to have something that's some form of group therapy, some type of support, and something more than what's being offered right now. So we feel like we're achieving that with the educational session. In terms of the content, do you want to comment more on that? Or I think we still have some work on actually putting it down.
Alongside what we're doing, we're also doing a scoping review of what treatments are available out there for FND in general. But actually specifically FCD, or functional cognitive disorder, which is a subtype of FND. But the results that we're expecting to get from there could be translated to FND in general, because they share like principles of treatment.
Thank you. I just have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
So once somebody goes through the education workshop, how do you guys plan on assessing the effectiveness? Is there like a survey, and then what does that process?
Yeah, so there would be, so we have pre and post survey. We could do interviews with them, we could do surveys. We have different scales. So there's I've always mispronounced the Prochaska scale. So that scale evaluates the patient's level of acceptance. So seeing where they are beforehand, workshop, and then where they are after, and setting a baseline to say, okay, this is what we would deem acceptable or beneficial, so to the point where then they move on to therapy and they're able to improve and limit symptoms. Great questions. That was fantastic. Thank you. Anybody else? All good? Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
in your teams?
Chat?
Mhm.
Rachel?
Mhm. Yeah. I broke it. How does it look? Period. Oh, yeah.
Hello, GRP community. I know you guys are tired by now, but just bear with us. We are the last group. So without further ado, I would introduce my team consisting of myself, Hira, and my amazing team members, Tala and Rachel. Our project's name is Access for All, Advancing Equitable HIV Policies for Ontario Prisons. And this is the sequence of our presentation that we will be following today. So for our project background, so through our literature research and by conducting interviews with HIV researchers and in-reach prison community workers, we discovered that there is low testing and uptake of HIV healthcare services in prison, even though the Canadian prisoners have a significantly higher prevalence of HIV compared to general population. There is lack of mandatory routine HIV testing. HIV testing is Canadian prison is typically on an opt-in basis rather than opt-out. Opt-in is that it's not a routine thing and prisoners have to request for testing, while opt-out, that is recommended, is when routine HIV testing is conducted. The HIV care cascade that Tala will touch upon later is broken due to bias, discrimination, and low testing and access. Although it can be managed well within the prison, it loses traction once prisoners are released. Furthermore, if a prisoner is tested positive, it can be difficult to obtain results while in custody, and even if they are obtained, physicians often do not offer treatment because they believe that prisoners will not adhere to the treatment once they are released. When prisoners attempt to access PrEP or HIV services, they have to admit that they are engaging in high-risk behavior like sex or IV drug use, and this goes on their record and it may impact their sentence or term of release.
So just to bring everybody up to speed, for those that weren't a part of our awesome monthly meetings, we had said last meeting that we were going to meet with Pasan to chat more about the programs and the materials that they have by way of HIV education for the incarcerated populations. We also adjusted our research question after reviewing more literature surrounding policies and legislation. And we also secured the participation of some PAC members, and we're hoping to identify a third very soon, one that is more well-versed and experienced in the area of policy and legislation, given the direction that we are now heading. We also have done more work with the literature and looking at more qualitative data, such as some of the research that one of our potential PAC members has put out in regards to legislation and policy surrounding this access.
So how did we get here? We started looking into HIV in breach and prison community programming and learned about like the current prison and reintegration harm reduction programming that's available through the SON, Elizabeth Fry Society, and the Teresa Group. Then we kind of shifted into inquiring about the continuity of HIV healthcare from prison into the community through the Second Chance Foundation and the Tybee Community Healthcare Center. And then from our conversations, we kind of noticed that there's a trend in lack of policy. So a lot of people were bringing up the fact that there's not a lot of clear, consistent guiding principles on HIV testing and healthcare. So this indicated the necessity for a policy reform, which has led us to our current focus. Now we're looking at developing partnerships with CAP, which is the Community Alliance for Accessible Treatment, a nonprofit organization, as well as John Howard Society, who also facilitates programs in prison and in the community.
So with our research and all of the wonderful conversations that we've had, a lot of them, the topic has been difficult, but the impact and the effect of
the lack of policy and legislation, not only just for the prisoners, but also for the researchers in the space, is very clear. There's a lot of stigma towards these prisoners, current and released, creating barriers in them engaging in productive conversations about HIV healthcare with the staff that are there to help them. There's also low literacy amongst these prisoners because the treatment and the distrust that is fostered in these environments makes it difficult for them to access this information. And with a lot of the community partners that are out there, they have limited opportunities where they're able to go in and deliver this education, and that can be cut and canceled at the drop of a hat. If a prison goes into lockdown, everything gets washed and they have to restart the process all over again. There's also, like we had mentioned, a lack of pointed policies, and this one I had brought up to Gilbert in discussion before our presentation, because it was baffling to me to see that the entire policy, that the entire act that they had, correctional services and reintegration, the entire thing was grayed out, meaning that it's not actually in effect. And it says at the top that this policy is not yet in effect and will go into effect at an undetermined date by the Legislature General, and that date has not been determined. That policy came about in 2018 and it's 2024.
So we wanted to bring up the HIV care cascade. Essentially what this is, it's what kind of happens when you first get tested, then diagnosed, then the treatment, then maintenance of the treatment plan that you will be in. So we kind of identified like specific issues within each phase of the cascade that are coming up. So for example, for testing, there is opt-in and opt-out testing, and that varies between different prisons. So there isn't a clear mandate for should we do opt-in or should we do opt-out testing. Then diagnosis is, it can be really difficult to get your actual diagnosis once you are tested when you're in custody. And then following that is treatment. So health professionals, as Kira said before, tend to kind of withhold treatment from prisoners that they know are HIV positive because they think that they won't adhere to the treatment once they are released, which is essentially discrimination in healthcare. And then maintenance of health. So since there's poor HIV or critical HIV literacy within the prison population and in the community, it can be really hard for them to actually advocate for themselves in prison and as well when they get released.
So to speak to a little bit more about the problem, as we previously identified, that the low HIV testing that we're dealing with and also the poor access that prisoners have to these services, their PrEP, something specific that we've talked about and we've researched before is PrEP, which is a preventative medication that they can take. That's not supported in any capacity by any policy that I found anywhere. And the texting and the access within prison that can help support them within prison and into reintegration isn't present either. So that leads us to a research question that we have now reformulated, saying what are the key policy gaps preventing equitable access to HIV care for incarcerated individuals and how can they be addressed?
So we had a lot of support from our advisors, Joseph and Gilbert, and also our PAC members. We're considering right now nailing down Dr. Ray Reese, who is a TMU researcher. She has extensive experiences in conducting research in prison and in the community, and also worked with Hassan. And as well, Dr. I'm going to butcher this, Koyum Jian, my apologies. She's a McMaster researcher. She's also the Associate Chief Medical Officer for Ontario and has a lot of experience providing primary care in prisons and conducting research as well.
So where we are right now is that we've initiated contact with the Ontario Ministry of Health, specifically the sector that deals with HIV and the Hep C program selection within prisons. We've also reached out to John Hopkins Society to talk to them more about their harm reduction programming and what they've been able to accomplish inside the prisons. And we also are going to be resubmitting our ethics proposal for some feedback.
And our next steps are to finalize our PAC members and hopefully get someone who's focused in health policy. Definitely finalize our community partnerships, as we mentioned, Kat and Dr. Society, as where we are in terms of policy focus. And then meet with the Ministry of Health program consultant, as Rachel mentioned, in HIV and Hep C in the Ministry of Health.
That concludes our presentation. Thank you so much.
I'll just yell. What? Who is Hassan or what is Hassan? Is that the person for an organization and what is the activity?
Hassan stands for Prison, AIDS and HIV Support Action Network. It's an
No, sorry, Anton is the name of the person. And when our pivot came from a conversation in our advisory meeting with Josephine Gilbert, where I was airing out a grievance or something that I just found completely baffling, which is that Anton had mentioned that when prisoners are inside and they're asking about access to PrEP specifically, they almost always have to either admit to having sexual intercourse inside the prison walls or admit to using drugs. And those two things can later be used against them if they're up for early release, or they can be used against them to put them on some type of watch list. But essentially, it has the capacity to make life inside the walls very difficult for them. So they either just don't ask at all and just suck it up and deal or figure it out for themselves, or they run into that process and get stonewalled.
I personally don't know, you might have mentioned it in one of the monthly meetings, but are prisons in Ontario or Canada, are they private or are they public, and are there, is there an overwatch regulatory body you could work with?
Okay. Right, so there are public and private prisons, but currently right now, so the CSC, Correctional Services Canada, they manage technically all the prisons, but there's like, for example, in Ontario, there's something called the Solicitor General Office, so they kind of manage like the Ontario prisons, and I think like every province has that kind of like division as well. It's in terms of health, technically, health is delivered by the federal government, so it doesn't really have anything much to do with like the Ministry of Health in terms of Ontario. But there are a lot of calls to have that health transferred to the Ministry of Ontario to kind of manage the healthcare in that way, just because it's so bad currently.
Is there, just spouting an idea in my head, but is there a way for inmates to receive health care from, let's say, a third party that's not involved in the prison? And like a third party runs all the health services of the prison or something?
That would have to be at the discretion of the staff. So the prisoner themselves can't say, I would like, I want to go get this, I want to go see this person, or I want a second opinion from this person. It's really all at the discretion of the people managing the facility.
There are like community, like nonprofit organizations that have clearance to go into prisons. So there are like community nonprofit organizations that have clearance to go into prisons and provide some kind of like healthcare support, but there's no like actual direct like care delivery that is available right now. Oh, sorry.
First of all, the presentation. I actually have the opposite thinking now, as I have looked extensively with this on in previous not anyone. But I know that we push that investor talking to kind of the community members and people who are doing this kind of frontline and kind of go from there. I just had a question in terms of sorry, your final deliverable, like we're talking about advancing policy and implementing policies, and you mentioned your project that you want to leverage by PBAs and having things forward. So would your final capstone project be the report that outlines all of this, like one of the analysis, or is there another material document that's going to be used for policy advancement?
So I think what we're thinking about right now, what we've spoken to some of the potential PAC members as well, is developing like a policy brief essentially that we could present to someone, maybe someone in government in like the HIV program, or maybe Solgen that might be interested in like looking into it. And I think we definitely want to publish something to kind of develop some recommendations in terms of developing that policy, making it more representative of the gaps that we are finding in this process.
Okay. Okay, so that is all. Right now we can all enjoy and walk to the Duke of Cornwall. Thank you, everybody. I thought it was a great presentation. And by the way, I encourage you to the first year, the second years, and all in between each other to talk to each other about these presentations that you either haven't, that you want to know more about, because again, you're going to be here next year. Bye.